My husband faked his death to escape our marriage. Now he's back, demanding I take him in and threatening to expose my own dark secret. I'm trapped between a rock and a hard place, and time is running out. I'm a 35-year-old woman who thought I'd seen it all. I graduated top of my class in law school, made partner at my firm by 30, and even survived my mother's endless parade of blind dates with nice young men from good families. But nothing, and I mean nothing, could have prepared me for the day my dead husband showed up on my doorstep, very much alive and with a suitcase in hand. Let me back up a bit. 3 years ago, my husband of 7 years went on a solo hiking trip in the Rockies. He never came back. Search and rescue combed the area for weeks, but all they found was his backpack, torn and bloodied at the bottom of a ravine. The official report said animal attack, likely a bear. I mourned, I grieved, and I slowly, painfully began to rebuild my life. Fast forward to last Tuesday, I'm sipping my morning coffee, reviewing case files when the doorbell rings. Probably another package. I'd been stress shopping on Net-a-Porter again. But when I opened the door, my mug slipped from my hand, shattering on the porch. There he was, a little older, a little grayer, but unmistakably my husband, the man I'd buried, or thought I had, 3 years ago. "Hey, babe," he said with that crooked smile I used to love. "Miss me?" I don't remember much of the next few minutes. I think I screamed. I definitely slammed the door in his face. When I finally managed to pull myself together and reopen it, he was still there, looking annoyingly amused. "Can I come in?" he asked, as if he'd just popped out for milk. "We have a lot to talk about." That was the understatement of the century. Over the next few hours, he spun a tale so wild I would have laughed if I wasn't so furious. He'd planned it all, he said. The hiking trip, the torn backpack, all of it. He'd been living in Costa Rica, running a little beach bar, finding himself. I felt trapped, he explained, not meeting my eyes. The job, the mortgage, the pressure to start a family. I couldn't breathe. I needed out. "So you decided to die?" I spat, my hands shaking as I poured myself a much-needed glass of wine. "Do you have any idea what you put me through, what you put our families through?" He at least had the decency to look ashamed. "I know it was selfish. I'm sorry, but I'm back now. We can start over." I stared at him, dumbfounded. Start over? As if the past 3 years hadn't happened? As if he hadn't let me believe he was dead? As if he hadn't watched from afar as I fell apart and painfully put myself back together? "You need to leave," I said, my voice low and dangerous. Now that's when his demeanor changed. The sheepish, apologetic act vanished, replaced by something cold and calculating. "I don't think you want me to do that," he said, pulling out his phone, "not unless you want everyone to know about your little indiscretion." My blood ran cold. He couldn't possibly know. I'd been so careful. But as he turned the phone toward me, I saw the photos. Me leaving that hotel on the edge of town, me kissing a woman who was decidedly not my husband, me looking happier than I had in years. "How?" I whispered, feeling the room spin around me. "I've been back for a while," he smirked. "Wanted to see how you were doing without me. Imagine my surprise when I saw you'd moved on so thoroughly." The implications hit me like a truck. The affair had started 6 months after his death, before I knew he was alive, sure, but not before the mandatory waiting period for declaring someone legally dead in the eyes of the law. I was a cheater. "What do you want?" I asked, hating how weak my voice sounded. "Simple. I want my life back. My house, my wife, my status in the community. You take me back, play the happy couple reunited, and these photos disappear. You don't? Well, I'm sure our friends and family would be very interested to see just how quickly you got over me." I felt sick. The life I'd rebuilt, the reputation I'd worked so hard to maintain, all of it was hanging by a thread, and holding that thread was the man who'd betrayed me in the most profound way possible. "I need time to think," I managed to choke out. He nodded, maddeningly calm. "Take all the time you need. I'll be at the Hilton downtown. Don't take too long, though. I'd hate for my finger to slip and accidentally send those photos to, oh, I don't know, your law firm, your mother, that nice woman you've been seeing." As soon as he left, I collapsed on the couch, my mind racing. How had my life become this tangled web of lies and betrayal? I spent the next few days in a daze, going through the motions at work while my thoughts spiraled. I couldn't eat, couldn't sleep. Every time my phone buzzed, I jumped, terrified it was him making good on his threat. My girlfriend, can I even call her that, noticed something was off. "Are you okay?" she asked one night, her brow furrowed with concern. "You seem distant." I wanted to tell her everything, to confess that the husband she thought was dead was very much alive and blackmailing me, to beg for her help, her understanding. But the words stuck in my throat. How could I drag her into this mess? Just stressed about a big case, I lied, hating myself for it. Another secret, another betrayal. As the days passed, my anger began to overpower my fear. Who was he to waltz back into my life and demand I upend everything? To threaten me after what he'd put me through? I started digging. If he'd been watching me, maybe I could find out something about his time away. I called in favors from old law school classmates, tapped contacts in law enforcement. Slowly, a picture began to emerge. My dead husband hadn't just been running a beach bar in Costa Rica. He'd been involved in something much darker. Money laundering, drug trafficking, maybe worse. His sudden return wasn't just about rekindling our marriage. He was running from something or someone. Armed with this knowledge, I decided to confront him. I went to the hotel, my heart pounding as I knocked on his door. He opened it with that same smug smile, but it faltered when he saw my expression. "We need to talk," I said, pushing past him into the room. For the next hour, I laid out everything I discovered. With each revelation, I watched his confidence crumble. By the end, he was pacing the room, running his hands through his hair. "You don't understand," he said, his voice shaking. "These people, they'll kill me if they find me. I needed a way back into my old life, a cover." "So you thought you'd blackmail me?" I shot back. "Use me as your human shield?" He collapsed onto the bed, looking suddenly old and tired. I didn't know what else to do. "I'm sorry for everything, for leaving, for coming back like this. I've made such a mess of everything." For a moment, I felt a flicker of the love I used to have for him, but it was quickly extinguished by the memory of all he'd put me through. "Here's what's going to happen," I said, my voice steady. "You're going to disappear again, for real this time. No blackmail, no threats. In exchange, I won't turn over what I know to the authorities." He looked up, hope and fear warring in his eyes. "And if I don't?" I pulled out my own phone, showing him the evidence I'd gathered. "Then we both go down, your choice." The silence stretched between us, heavy with years of love, betrayal, and regret. Finally, he nodded. "Okay, you win. I'll go." I wish I could say I felt triumphant in that moment. Instead, I just felt tired, bone-deep, soul-crushing exhaustion as I watched him pack his meager belongings. A thought struck me. "Why did you really come back?" I asked. "The truth this time," he paused, his back to me. "Because I missed you," he said softly. "Because running away made me realize what I'd thrown away. Pretty stupid, huh?" I didn't answer. What could I say? That I'd missed him too? That there were nights I still reached for him in my sleep? That even after everything, a part of me still loved the man I thought he'd been? Instead, I simply said, goodbye. As I walked out of that hotel room, I felt as if I was shedding a skin. The grieving widow, the secret lover, the blackmail victim, all of those versions of me stayed behind. The aftermath hasn't been easy. I had to come clean to my girlfriend, to my family. Some relationships didn't survive the truth. Others surprisingly grew stronger. I'm still untangling the legal mess of having a spouse come back from the dead, but for the first time in years, I feel like I can breathe. No more secrets, no more lies, just me facing whatever comes next with honesty and hopefully a little hard-won wisdom. As for my not-so-dead husband, I haven't heard from him since that day at the hotel. Sometimes I wonder where he is, if he's safe, if he ever thinks of me, but mostly, I'm focused on rebuilding my life again, this time on my own terms. If there's a lesson in all of this, I suppose it's that the truth, no matter how painful, is always better than a comfortable lie. That running from your problems only means you'll have to face them later, usually when you're least prepared, and that sometimes the hardest person to forgive is yourself. But life goes on, one day at a time, one truth at a time.